So, welcome back to another episode of the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom. Um, we are on episode 20, and I'm sure Dom's got some kind words to say about that and some thoughts on how the hell we've got to episode 20. But on episode 20, as a sort of antidote and a counterbalance to the nostalgia and reminiscing on the last episode, we're bringing it up to speed, and we're going to talk about things that we love about the modern game. Now, Dom and I are men of a certain age. And when we were putting our details together for nostalgia and reminiscing, it was very easy to come up with a list. When we're looking at things we love about the modern game, that list was a bit thin at first, but then we look at it and say, well, we watch a hell of a lot of football. We must love it because why would we do it otherwise? And we watch football he's a Premier League fan and a Championship fan. I'm a Championship fan. I watch all the EFL. We watch loads of overseas football like Bundesliga and Serie A, etc. So we must love it. And we've come up with a list of things we love. It's there's some tenuous things in there, but it's a bit of fun, a bit of walk down the sort of modern game and things that we look forward to and things that pique our interest, shall we say. But without further ado, to discuss all the things that we love about modern football, I want to talk to Dom, my co-host, and I want to talk to you about episode 20. Dom, what's that about?
I can't believe it, mate. Episode 20. Who thought we'd get to here and so quickly? Andy, I can't believe it's episode 20. Brought to you by Andy Newbold. And, this brought to you bit, we just wanted to say that this is an amusing thing me and Nick picked up at the Riverside, because when they get to the end of the half, they always say, and it's 2 minutes of added time brought to you by Baxter Personnel, which are a Teesside company. And me and Nick are always amused that the added time's brought to them by a company. So we always picture like a man in a car dashing to the stadium and racing up just before half time, running out with a big briefcase, and someone going, bloody hell, your briefcase is big. Well, it is, because there's like 5 minutes of added time today. And look, I'm bringing it to you, ready for half time. So yeah, it's the can't believe section of the show, brought to you by, because Andy always commented that he can't believe I always say I can't believe what episode it is. Andy, I can't. Honestly, I can't. I'm just chuffed we've got to episode 20 and we're loving it. So,
it's not going to anytime soon, Andy. So neither will our love for you
neither will our love for you, and we'll still be saying it when we get to episode 100, and we will get to episode 100, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got lots to talk about.
We will. Okay, we usually talk about shirts. It won't take long to talk about mine. I hate this shirt. And for those on YouTube, I'm wearing a shirt that was our Borough third kit last season. The only redeeming feature of this shirt is that we won at Leeds under lights in the Carabao Cup 3-1 at Elland Road, and
we were both there, weren't we, mate?
We were both there wearing this shirt, which is hideous. For those who are not watching, imagine a bus seat that someone's pissed on and then been sick on. This is my shirt. It's hideous. I don't know why I bought it. I hate it. However, it does divide opinion, because in my household, my son quite likes it. It's a good holiday shirt for wearing on a beach, but that's not what a football shirt should be. That's all I'll say about mine. Dom's got a crisp, clean, he's got a summer feel about it. It's got a bit of waves going on, hasn't it, really? So we've both gone summery, even though it's October.
So this is Everton's latest home kit by Castor. I love it. It's kind of a play on the 86-87 kit by Umbro, predominantly the V-neck. We don't often have a dark blue V-neck, but it's also totally different from that shirt. So it's got a slight wave pattern in it, which is supposed to be in tribute to the River Mersey, which is literally on the banks of where the new stadium is. So yeah, I like this shirt a lot. It's nice.
Okay.
I've got to say about your shirt, mate. Firstly, I'm not sure we wore that to that Carabao Cup game. I think we wore our home kit, I do. I'm going to challenge you on that one. But equally, I agree with you that it's an absolutely awful shirt. And the fact that you bought it is, well, you said off air that you look like a bus seat, which I think is a fabulous comment. But also it looks like someone's been in a bit of a spit of rage with you and thrown paint at you. It's a combination of both, really.
Irrespective of whether we wore it at Leeds or not, and we did win 3-1 under the lights at Elland Road. And I think I wore it because I thought we wore it there. But what I would say is It's got no place in football. First of all,
No.
having a third shirt's annoying, and
Yeah.
third, the reason I bought it is because our second shirt sold out really quickly. I couldn't get a hold of our away shirts. I bought it in a fit of pique, thinking, well, typical of Borough Commercial at the time. I couldn't get the bloody away shirt that I really liked, the one I wore last week. That didn't come available until about Christmas, so it was a desperate need to get an away shirt that season. But anyway, that was why.
And
Anyway,
f- and for and for people who don't know Nick, he has a real thing that he has to have. He has to wear a home shirt at home matches and away shirts at away matches. So what he says about having a fit of peak and having to buy some kind of shirt is absolutely true because he won't have wanted to wear his home shirt at away matches, and he likes to have the latest shirt for that season for home and away, don't you, mate? So I can see you'll have been
uh,
enraged and thought I've got to have some form of away shirt. Yeah.
I don't know what your point is, mate. Anyway, moving on, so that's fine. And when I see people wearing home shirts at away games and vice versa, it's like, if there's too many in the crowd, that's my superstition kicks in and says, if we lose like today because there's too many red shirts in the away end or too many blue shirts or in the home end. Anyway, moving on. That's just me being a superstitious idiot. Moving on. What do we love about the modern game now? We've got a list like we had last week on episode 19, which is a bit random, no particular order. We put lists together and we just discuss them and we'll think. So I put one which is a bit strange. I quite like the mix of new and old stadiums that are available to us as fans now. I love a traditional ground. I like your Deepdales. I like your Hillsboroughs, I mean, I know it needs work and that kind of thing. I like going to a traditional ground, but also when you go to a more modern ground, and particularly a relatively new one, you've got unrestricted views. You've got it's a better viewing experience, and so I don't mind over the season 23 away games at the River, for Middlesbrough. There's a good mix in there for me. And for you at Everton, you've got a brand new stadium, which is a very different experience to Goodison and getting used to it. I like the mix really, traditionally it was always like, well, this is a bit of a shithole. There's restricted views. There's bloody, stanchions in the way. It's horrible. There's no leg room, all that kind of thing. I quite like a stadium like that occasionally, but I quite like the mix. What's your view on the mix of stadiums available to us now as fans?
On this one, I 100% agree with you. I like the mix, and I think as time goes on and old stadiums are replaced with new, or even if you don't up sticks and move to a whole new site, but traditional stadiums are upgraded and the old footprint disappears. I think people are crying out for a bit of nostalgia and love the old grounds. It's why I'm probably a good example. Goodison Park to me, apart from the park end, it was still the ground that was there for decades, apart from just a new roof. Basically, the main stand had been replaced in the '70s, but there was still that feel of those. There was two stands that had been there from when it was built, just had new roofs. So that always felt like a really old, gritty stadium. I always loved Goodison from being a kid and going down away games. Um, but yeah, it's funny because where we were based in Goodison, in a family enclosure in the main stand, you know, actually some of our views were frustrating towards the park end because you'd always have the coaches and the managers in their technical areas, and sometimes trying to see past them was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
But even now, where we are, even if we're not in that stand now, but even if we were in the main stand where the managers are, it's designed and built in such a way that the first levels are slightly elevated, so you'd never have that issue having to look around anywhere. There's a perfect view
mm,
everywhere.
yeah,
In the south stand, which is the steepest stand in the ground, the views are just brilliant all over. There's just not a bad view
yeah.
anywhere. You can see the game crystal clear from where we are. It's perfect. So, but yeah, um, modern stadium can feel a bit sterile at times. I mean, we've both said as much as we like the Riverside, it was knocked up in a season. It was a very quick
Yeah,
knock up job. Not a lot of thought went into it. If it was rebuilt now, I'm sure the club would do things differently and put a few more bits in there.
yeah,
So it's nice sometimes to go to an old ground or a ground where it's still got some of the old stands.
mm,
I love that. St Andrews has still got one of its really old stands. Blackburn's still got one of its really old stands. Deepdale's a funny one because it's still got its original footprint, but they've built every new stand there. But
yeah.
it still has
Historic.
that nostalgia, even though every stand's brand new.
we went. Rob and I went last season and ticked Luton off our list, and it's you like your first reaction is, oh my god, but actually fabulous,
It's
really, really.
brilliant,
And
isn't it?
we went to Fratton Park a few weeks ago, and again loved it. Loved Fratton Park as well. Just it's like four sides stadium, not a ball.
Yeah,
So I like the mix of that, and then equally, we get drawn against Everton in the FA Cup third round, and we get to go to your place. I've been really looking forward to going there. Not been to the Spurs Stadium yet, so for example, I'd love to see that. So I like the mix of old and new. So that's where we started with that. But I also something we reflected on last week was the smell of football. I'm glad we don't have that anymore. I like the fact that we don't stink of cigarettes after the game and get secondary cancer from standing next to someone who's smoking 40 fags. Because when we go to Bundesliga over in Dortmund every season, you can still smoke in the stadium in Germany, can't you? And
yeah.
Rob looks at me. I detest smoking. It's just a thing that just gets on my nerves. And if there's somebody smoking in front of you and then it's wafting behind and you're breathing that in, Rob just looks at me and goes, "You can't say anything. You can't say anything." I mean, we talk about German people. I probably can't say anything they'd understand anyway. However, it's just that annoyance that you come away, you stinking of smoke, and you're thinking, we're in 2025, 26 season. Why should I smell of smoke? So I love the fact that we don't over here. And I'd love the fact if the banned smoking in stadiums in Germany would make our Dortmund trips just that slightly more pleasant, although they are exceptionally great weekends.
I agree with that. I remember the first time I came away with you, Rob. There was a guy in front of me, do you remember? And he was probably smoking the strongest cigarette on the market,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you literally felt you were going to, get some kind of horrendous disease just from breathing in one. I think it was like a kind of bluey purple color. It was that toxic, and he was literally a chain smoker the whole
yeah,
way
yeah,
through. And it was hard yards because you couldn't really say anything because he's got it's every right for him to do it. But it was
yeah,
I didn't enjoy it at all. I mean, to be honest, even in the modern stadia now and stuff, and even in the old stadia where it's been banned, you still get people smoking in the toilets at half time and vaping as they walk in the door. I mean, even at the new stadium at Bramley Moore, you go in the toilet at half time, it stinks, and it's just
yeah,
like seriously, for God's sake, honestly, can you not hold it for 2 hours until you walk out the ground? Is it that bad?
yeah.
Pathetic, really. So,
No worries.
um,
Well, we
I
don't.
agree with that. I don't like that bit. I like that about modern stadia. I don't want to be breathing in people's vapes. I was at the Riverside recently, funny enough, a couple of seasons ago, there was a guy in front of me vaping his head off and then just doing the casual where you do that and blow it behind you.
Yeah,
So I was just getting this full waft of like some kind of strawberry scent. And I had to politely tap on the shoulder and said, "Can you just stop? I don't appreciate having a cloud of strawberry vape just wafting into my head." I
yeah,
said, "You're not supposed to do it. I don't think you should be doing it. Just pack it in because I don't want to be breathing it in, and neither does anybody else. So just stop."
yeah.
And he did because I think he felt embarrassed. Like, well, if no one pulls these people up, they're just going to carry on doing it, aren't they?
Well, the other thing is, he's not going to be a real tough guy, is he? If he's smoking
True,
strawberry vape,
strawberry
by the
vape. But
way.
in
Yeah,
Germany, I wasn't going to because that's at the Riverside. It's fine because it's not allowed. But in
yeah.
Germany, it is. So I wasn't going to pull someone up, especially when
No,
I'm, he was that would have been rude. But
yeah.
yeah, I agree with you on that, mate. But we like the fact that we can have a beer in our seats in Germany. We fully sanction that one. Yeah.
I wish we could over here. Anyway, moving on
Yeah.
from that. So going back to your clear view and all that kind of thing. One thing I like about modern stadiums now is the return of safe standing in a few stadiums. So
Yeah.
we've been to Derby away. The away end's got safe standing. Somewhere else recently, I can't remember, safe standing seats. Away fans are going to stand. They're going to stand whether they've got a seat or not. So why not give them rail standing and safe standing, and make it the experience that they want? And you can lean against your rail in front of you. It's very comfortable. More and more stadiums should have safe standing and rail standing for me. And the return of that is definitely a bonus and a boom for me. And when I go to a stadium and it says, and you're booking your away tickets and it says safe standing zone, I'll always allocate for that because it's so much more fun than it is. I think it was Fratton Park actually had safe standing. It was safe standing at Fratton Park. So yeah, Derby, Fratton Park, others that we've been to. The return of standing areas for away fans welcome it. And even for home fans, I'm sure they appreciate their bits as well.
Oh, completely. If memory serves, I think there's a tiny section in the south stand at the Riverside that are doing it as an
Yeah,
experiment. In the new stadium at Everton, the entire south stand is safe standing, so it's got the rail seating. So you've got the rail, so you stand and you've got the protective rail, but you've also
Yeah.
got your seat.
Yeah.
But where that's also brought in for is in future time, if they want to change it and make it standing, they can either take the seats out. So
Yeah.
you obviously you can increase your capacity probably by 10,000 because you can get double the amount of people in there or more. But it also means that people can stand for every game, which you'd much prefer. I love standing for a football game.
I
I'd
do.
much rather stand than be in my seat. Other European countries, so obviously my wife has Swedish connection. We've referenced it on the pod before. So when we go across and go and watch a Malmo game, so Malmo in their main main home end, where all the ultras go and stuff, so they can actually literally for European games, they have a system where they shut all their seats down, so the seats no longer exist. They fold them down or they slide them out,
Yeah.
and then the stay standing clicks into gear, and it just becomes a completely standing stand, and they can fit more in, and it becomes a standing. And then for their league games, it regulates back to seating. So that's a clever way. But I'm like you. We've come to a point now where standing needs to happen again in football. It's perfectly safe. The stadia are fine. Nothing's fenced in, and fans aren't locked in like they were back in the
Yeah.
late 80s when all the violence was happening and fans were penned in. So yeah, I think it gives a really good atmosphere in the game, and I've noticed it a lot in the new stadium because fans are standing. It has created a better atmosphere. But on that point as well, linking to something else I like, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in a previous pod, but new stadium design and the technology that goes into that. So when Everton's new stadium was built, the architect said you'll notice a distinct difference in the noise and the decibel level. He said the way the stadium's been designed and the roof is like a certain type of metal, and it's also a barrel shape, so it curves around the sides. He said it's been designed that it locks and traps the noise that the fans make, and it bounces it off the sides of the stadiums and the barrel and echoes it round the ground. And that is really, really true. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, and there's been two games now in a row that's been measured where it's broken the decibel level for a Premier League game, and I think the one against Crystal Palace ended up being it's the loudest noise created in a football stadium, second loudest in the world. The loudest was a game in Turkey. I think it was a
Yeah.
Galatasaray derby. We're 1 decibel off that. I mean, you'd expect that in Turkey. I'd like
Yeah.
to go and watch a game in Turkey. Actually, that'd be fabulous. But I think we're nearly there. But small things. Modern stadia can create that now, and that's all done from, not only that, but it's a really steep stand, so it's within half a millimeter of the law in terms of how steep the actual stand can be. So it's
Yeah.
steep, it's safe standing, and it creates more
Atmosphere.
noise. So that modern technology in a stadium, all those things are great things. Yeah.
I would say to you though, mate, I was in Istanbul for a conference in February, and I was there when Galatasaray were playing Besiktas. You would not want to go to a derby. You might think you want to go to a derby, but it was a very, very, well, shall we say, there was a very strong undercurrent in the entire
Oh
city for,
no, I'd like to go to a game in Turkey. I wouldn't like to go to a derby. I'd like to go to a game in Turkey.
yeah.
I think that would be quite an uncomfortable experience, to be
It
honest.
was it was insane in the 4 or 5 hours leading up to it, let alone what would have happened in the stadium. And it was a 0-0 draw apparently. So
Oh
I was
God,
like, yeah, wouldn't want. I was thinking, oh, I might get a ticket for that. I think myself probably won't actually.
it won't.
Okay,
Yeah.
another thing I really like, I like access to football on TV because growing up we had the FA Cup final, didn't we? And that were it. Now you can watch telly, you can watch highlights of Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga. Not that I watch Liga at all. Good news is you can't see Saudi League because nobody gives a shit about the Saudi League. But you can absorb football in whichever format you want, whether it's on
Yeah.
YouTube, whether it's on a pay channel, whether it's on a people who've got dodgy sticks and whatever it might be. And just the proliferation of availability of football to watch on TV. I love it because I absorb football. I watch Serie A highlights. I watch Bundesliga highlights. I watch EFL. I watch Match of the Day. Match of the Day 2, as is now still called just Match of the Day now, in on Sunday. and I can watch all that. Whereas before it was like, well, yeah, it was Match of the Day or ITV used to have the what was it called? The ITV,
Premiership, I think it was called when they.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
You mean the
the
big? Oh, you mean the big match when they
no,
used
the
to have
big
live
yeah, all
match?
that kind of thing. But we literally had very
Oh, we
few
didn't, did we? It was a
games of
novelty. You get
football.
like a Friday night game. I mean, do you know what? People forget that in the early '80s. Now and again, the Football League used to do a Friday night game, which was like a rare thing.
Yeah,
People think that's new that Sky introduced in the last few years. It's not. The Football League used to do it, but yeah, live matches were a rarity when we were back in the '70s, '80s
yeah,
when we were young, and they were a real highlight. So you're absolutely right, and you'd actually have more access to the European Cup games than you would to league games. Do you remember?
yeah, yeah,
And you'd see the highlights of them, or they'd screen some of those live because obviously the English teams were doing really well back in the early '80s. So you'd actually have quite a lot of live European Cup games, which were brilliant because we didn't get a lot of live league games. So yeah, I agree with that. You're almost spoiled. So there's weeks where I'm busy or I might not feel like watching all the highlights on a Saturday night. So I just have them all recorded. I can just go to them anytime and just
yeah.
watch them. And I also like in the modern way of things, if I suddenly reminisce about a game I enjoyed, I can just go onto YouTube and find it and just
Yeah.
watch the goals and look at it and go, oh God, how good was that? And
Well,
it's not just my team, but any match that I really liked or it's great. I love that.
you mentioned last week, for younger generation, just go and watch Dennis Bergkamp or go and watch, Kenny Dalglish. You can do that, can't you? You just find them,
Yeah, just go and
but
watch a package on those players. It's just so
but
good.
that brings me on to something else I like about the modern game. I love things like clever player reveals. You sign a player and there's like a social media kind of storyline
Yeah,
behind it and the reveals of these players. But then
yeah,
you look at the show reel, you go, oh my God, we've signed a world beater. But I think even I could have a decent show reel on YouTube if I found my absolute best bits and edited it really well. You might just find a show reel enough for a minute or two worth, like I look like a world beater. But I like the player reveals. I like the social media. I like the clever, funny ways of doing stuff. Your new shirt reveals. Middlesbrough have just got a redesigned badge for our 150th anniversary, and you look at it and go, okay, it's a badge, but actually the reveal video and the story behind it video was brilliant. It was like really
yeah. It was.
interesting.
Yeah, it's very clever, and it gives it's some of those things that back in the day you might not have got, or you'd have been solely reliant in reading it in the match day program or a
Yeah,
newspaper if the local newspaper wanted to cover it. Whereas now, I agree with you. I was really excited. I've been waiting for a while to see what the new badge reveal will be at Middlesbrough. I
yeah,
love it, by the way. It's
I do.
exactly what I wanted. But little nuances of where they've got to it with you wouldn't understand unless and do you know what, the reveal video is only 7 minutes long. It's not
Yeah,
long. It's not like this big long-winded thing that's going to bore people, but I agree with you, it was really succinctly done but cleverly done and explains everything from you got that subtle little bit that reveals a tribute to the white band,
yeah,
the lettering which is in tribute to the steelworks, even the clever redesigning of the lion which shows you rosemary topping and it shows you that the tongue is like the shape of the River Tees. Do you know what? At first look, without looking at that reveal video, you wouldn't understand it. And
no,
then you watch the video and go, "Oh God, of course I see those things now."
yeah,
I agree with it. They're all really clever things, and they're not big things for fans to engage with. They're not long, cumbersome, laborious things. And I'm with you. I'm a big sucker for a player reveal. I like all that. Do you know what? Why not? Indulge it. If you're excited about a player signing for you, you're itching for the reveal. You can't wait for the reveal, and they always do an interview now with him about. And do you know what? Some of the interviews and the questions could be better.
yeah,
I'd love me and you to interview these players, mate, and get in there and get some questions that aren't your standard club script.
yeah,
I'd be dying to do that. I'd love to go to a club and ask these players questions. But yeah, in the summer, I was really excited about watching all the Borough ones and the Everton ones and getting excited about that. You didn't get that in the back in the day. You'd read it in the newspaper, wouldn't you? And that's the
yeah.
first you'd probably hear of a player being signed by your club.
Mm.
And that was it. Yeah. So I love all that. I'm a big fan of that. I
How,
think. One of mine, mate. And have you got anything else to say on that?
I was
Sorry,
just
I'm
going to
going to
say,
keep going.
one of the things, just hopping back to nostalgia on that though, you rarely see somebody wearing a shirt, tie, and a suit jacket, and a pair of shorts, and a pair of football socks and boots, like Brian Robson at the
Yeah,
Riverside doing keepy uppies, like the most bizarre ever like press conference reveal. Like, what on earth are you doing now? A social media manager now would just go, we're not doing that, just not doing
no.
that at all. It's really slick now, and I like the slickness of that. Sorry, mate. Yeah, what's on your list?
I was going to say one thing I like, and it's probably like a given now, and people don't really think about it. But again, we are men of a certain age. But just the pitches. I mean, the pitches are like
Oh,
carpets now. I mean, the pitch technology. Every week, these players are playing on a beautiful pitch that is like a carpet.
yeah.
I mean, we are both fans that remember pitches that started off in August looking pretty decent, and then literally by now, early October onwards, they were starting to be worse for wear, and probably a month from now, they were literally just mud.
I would argue whether the baseball ground at Derby ever looked good even in August, mate, even after a summer of resoiling and
They did have a
rolling and where
terrible pitch, didn't they? Awful,
just it was like
awful.
I mean, it was worse than a park pitch, wasn't it? And
It was
Quagmire,
dreadful. It was.
yeah,
I mean, and the thing is, back then, you know, fans might not realise, but you know, clubs had undersoil heating, but they didn't have proper drainage. They
no,
didn't invest in drainage systems. There wasn't like grass seed technologies. I mean, I'm not being funny, but Everton's new pitch is I can't. I think it's called a cyst grass system. And I watched the videos. This is again like talking about modern things of the game now. You can watch how, like, I really enjoyed Everton released all over the last 3 years. Been watching how the stadium's built from nothing to where it is now and showing you the progress.
yeah.
Again, you wouldn't have got that back in the day, but this shows you the pitch that was being laid, and it's also like stitched. So not only is it grass, it's got an underlying
Oh, yeah.
green stitching, which strengthens the grass and strengthens the actual root system. Back in the 70s, early 80s, they literally used to seed it, hope for the best, give it a cut, roll the lines, and that was it. And then at the baseball ground, remember they used to just throw loads of sand on. So players were sliding in gritty sand, and you'd see them with like cuts up their legs because they were sliding and grazing around in hard sand
But better than that, if you got a penalty, a guy would come on with a pot
and
and
daub on the
he'd
penalty
paint the
spot.
penalty spot because the penalty spot was long gone by then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
and sometimes remember watching games, mate, where the ball would get caught in the mud and it
yeah,
would stop because it. I mean, the funny thing is, not to the same extreme, but recently I was watching that classic game from, I think it was it the '96 season when Liverpool beat Newcastle 4-3, the Collymore winner.
oh
Fabulous
yeah,
game of football.
yeah,
And do you know what? The Anfield pitch was a patchwork where they'd had to replace little segments of the pitch. You know, the
turf.
key area which was in the goal mouth, but other areas, and you're thinking you just don't see that anymore either. I mean,
No,
even lower down the leagues, they've got Rolls Royce pitches now.
yeah.
Pitch technology now is just something else. I think young fans now just think that's how it's always been, but it really wasn't, was it? The pitches were dreadful.
For those who again looking at availability of access to football, just look at a Derby County versus Leeds United game from
Oh,
1973 at the baseball ground. Actually, watch the game for the fact that it would end up as 5 versus 4 these days, but worse than that. Just look at the pitch.
look
I've
at the
shown
pitch, exactly.
I've
It's
shown
awful,
Rob
isn't it?
I've shown Rob some games from that era, and he's like, "What? That was like top division, Division One."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, and actually,
yeah.
funny enough, Derby County won.
Won the
They were
league.
league champions, probably because no one could play on their bloody pitch. To be fair, but
But they
so
used to train there as well, didn't they? The
yeah,
other
yeah,
things that people forget is back then when some clubs didn't have separate training facilities, so they'd actually train
yeah.
at the club on the same pitch. So they were training every day on it and then playing their matches on it as well.
So pitch technology is an absolute game changer. I love that. It's a great thing we like about football right now. Okay, I've got one here in more recent years. The fact that the big six are not the big six anymore. I bloody love that. You know,
I love that as well. Yeah.
the traditional inverted commas big six. So you're talking about Liverpool, you talk about Man City, you talk about Man United, Arsenal, Spurs. Who's the other one? Chelsea. Yeah, right. I mean, I'll be honest with you. if you're listening and you support any of those clubs, good luck to you. It's nothing personal. I hate all of you. I hate all your clubs because you're all just arrogant, self-entitled. You know, if you lose a game, you lose your shit on Talksport because you lost 1-0 to somebody. And I'm loving the emergence of your Bournemouths, your Palaces, your Brightons, your Brentfords. You know, smaller clubs, so what? But they're giving you a bloody nose and they're doing it really well. And it gives hope to everybody. And the modern game is better for the fact that it's not as dominated as it used to be by Man United and Arsenal, Arsenal or Man United. Oh, Chelsea have come into the frame, Chelsea or Arsenal, Chelsea or Man United. Then Arsenal dropped off. Oh, it's Chelsea. Oh, hang on a minute, Liverpool are back. Liverpool or it's we're all sick. Man City, Man City. We're sick of seeing that. As fans of those clubs, I love the diversity of teams who can go toe to toe with you on any given day and hopefully give you a good battering. And that for me is a good thing.
Yeah, um, yeah, I'm not as vehement as you with you. I hate you all. You can all go fuck yourselves. But
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Well,
I know what you mean.
the clubs, not the fans. The
I know
clubs,
that.
not the
I know that's
fans.
what you mean, mate. Yeah, just to clarify. But yeah, I mean the big six derive because they're the big six because of the revenue they generate and how strong they are money wise. But I think that's kind of irrelevant in football. And I think what's really refreshing over the last few years is you can really see how that hasn't really had any effect in terms of Man United run like dog shit now. I mean, I'm I've got we're gonna do a pod on this because I've got a really good thing I want to discuss on Man United and stuff about just how poorly and appallingly they've been run since they've been taken over, and just the fact that they've been run into the ground. Um, and I, I like the fact that I agree with you, Nick, entirely. The likes of Man United and Spurs, you don't really look at them anymore and think they're much better and more superior to the likes of Brighton, Bournemouth, Everton to a degree, and that's but any club, any club can beat them on the day, and they
Yeah,
do frequently. And I know people say the Premier League is boring and it's usually quite predictable. I disagree with that. I think some of the football can be frustrating now, and it is evolving and changing in different ways. But I do love the strength of it, the fact that you really don't know going into any game how it might play out.
yeah,
Every club now seems to be really well equipped, and you might have the odd one that falls by the wayside. West Ham are struggling. Wolves, even though they've played some good stuff, can't seem to get a win. Um, but yeah, I long may that continue. I mean this in all good faith and banter, but it has been quite funny watching Liverpool lose five on the bounce. I mean, you can see the preferential treatment they get because on our local news on BBC in the week, they did a whole segment on, one of the Liverpool FC fan channels, literally talking about what's going on, losing their shit and stuff. And it's like, oh my god, it's like you've lost five games.
yeah,
Other clubs do that on a frequent basis. It's like deal with it. It's not the end of the world. And it's kind of almost karma in a way for literally buying every single player in the sweet shop and thinking it's all going to work out magically from day one when it's never going to do that. To be honest, next season, they might all come out all guns blazing and everything will click because it can take time and
yeah,
we're realistic. And I'm not being nasty about them, but it's like, come on, fans, have a reality check. The fans of these clubs that have never set foot in a football stadium are all losing their shit. And it's like, good God, you don't know what you don't know you're born. You wouldn't know how to suffer at a football match
yeah.
if your life depended on it.
Ultimately, over the season, one of those four, and it won't be Man United, it won't be Spurs. One of those four will win the league. That's given, right? That's
Given, yeah,
fine. But it's the bit in between for me. It's the games, the unpredictability of the games, the fact that it's much more likely that a team who are not one of those teams can beat another one
yeah,
because for the last 10 years, it's been, oh, City are just going to turn up and going to pass someone to death. They're going to fall asleep while you're doing it. You're going to win and then you're going to put them to the sword when you're 1-0 up because they've fallen asleep. Liverpool, close and not quite there, and Arsenal missing out and all that. It's like, oh my God. But now, you look at it and go, if Arsenal playing Bournemouth, for example, you think to yourself, oh, actually, it might be a tasty game. Previously, it would be, well, Arsenal are going to win that. I won't bother watching it. So, it's a tasty game, potentially. The other
Yeah,
thing as well
agree.
is, and I like about the modern game, I like about this season particularly, we've mentioned it before, is in the Championship currently, the parachute payment teams are really struggling to get
Yeah,
going.
they are, and I like
Yeah,
that.
bloody
There's
love it.
actually we said before, haven't we? It's really refreshing to have some parity because let's be honest, this is not just us saying it; it's a fact. The parachute payment teams always have an advantage, and they
Yeah,
always do well, and they
yeah,
nearly always get re-promoted, or they're
yeah,
nearly always in the top four. So this season it has been really nice. I mean, Southampton are struggling, Leicester they're off and on, as are Ipswich. I mean, who thought Ipswich would get spanked 3-0 last week? I didn't
yeah.
expect that.
At
So
home,
they're struggling at home as well. And you're touching on that. I agree with it in the Premier League. You're touching on that. I love the fact that I don't think any club walks into any match now thinking, "Oh, we'll turn these over," because a couple of seasons ago, I was getting really worried. It really was becoming the Man City show.
yeah,
It just was and we've said before, we might do another pod and go into detail and explain our reasoning on this, but they are a very mechanical team to watch. They're
yeah.
so boring.
Mm,
So boring. I mean, Erling Haaland's a fabulous striker, and they've got fabulous players who
yeah,
can do fabulous things, and they do have some wonderful moments. But over 90 minutes, can you honestly say that you really enjoyed watching Man City? I don't think you can because they function to do what's required, which is to win a football match. But
yeah.
how they do it is just dull.
I almost actively avoid them because I can't
Yeah,
watch. I can't watch
yeah,
90 minutes of them. I might watch them if they're playing like an Arsenal or Liverpool or whatever, just for but they rarely turn into nil-nil bloody stalemates, don't they? So
yeah.
I agree
But
on
it
that
was
one.
getting that way, wasn't it, mate?
Oh,
We were getting to a point where it's like I can't see anyone really competing with them. So
yeah,
it's nice that A, they've had a bit of a drop off, and
mm,
B, that other clubs have got better. Liverpool, Arsenal,
yeah,
Newcastle, long may that continue. People might think as Borough fans that's strange. No, I am ultimately, I don't mean this in a cheesy way. I'm a football fan. I want other clubs to do well.
yeah,
If you're, why would you not? Why would you want a division that only has two or three clubs that can do anything?
yeah,
Otherwise, you're just going to have what you have in Scotland and what you have in Germany, and you
yeah,
don't want that. You want as many clubs to thrive as you can because then
yeah,
you've got a brilliant competition, and it is getting better in the Premier League. So some people
yeah,
might question some of the quality of the football, but actually on a week in, week out basis, it's great to watch. Look, I mean, Brentford. Remember us at the start of the season, mate. We were kind of thinking, has Keith Andrews been, given a kipper here
yeah,
once again? And but we did say that. I remember saying as a caveat, to cover ourselves, and I remember saying this in the pod. Brentford can always surprise you, and boy, are they surprising me! They're playing some brilliant football, and
yeah,
again, every single season, as soon as they lose players, they just other players step up, and you're like, who'd have thought it? Where's this fella come from?
yeah.
And again, they're they're doing well. They're
They,
middle table and,
they,
and,
they
and
had,
doing
they had
really
a
well.
guy. They had a guy who scored 2 goals last weekend. I never heard of the guy. Never heard of the guy. He was his first game.
Yeah,
I can't remember who he was called. Even he's that anonymous. He scored 2 goals and they won the game, didn't they? It's like bloody hell. Where's
but
he?
they played really. I mean, I know West Ham are struggling, but they played well. And again, it's like long may that continue because if you look at how Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth have been ravaged player wise, and they
Yeah,
just bounce back and keep going, and
yeah,
that's to do with their recruitment system, how they run as a club behind the scenes. They've got good managers. I don't know about. I mean, Keith Andrews is doing a great job at the moment. By the way, he
yeah,
is.
yeah,
I mean, that's clear to see. Um, yeah, long may it continue. We've said before, and I'm always a bit scathing in saying that I think the top six clubs and bigger clubs are a bit lazy because they just go and poach all and take all the hard work that other clubs have done,
yeah,
um, and they just keep going. So maybe they do work harder than the top six teams, and they
yeah.
probably have to. But yeah, it's refreshing, and I think that's a really good shout, mate. I hadn't really thought of that too much, but when you do think about it, that's a really big plus for this season.
It makes the game better. I've got one which is dark side, really. What I love about the modern game is, you know, no hooligans and certainly less fear going to games. you and I been to games in the 70s and 80s, and
Yeah,
Christ Almighty, you take your life in your hands. I once went to Elland Road and came back to the coach, and the coach had no windows left, and we were driving through certain dodgy areas of Leeds, getting pelters and all that kind of stuff. And our fans were jumping off the coach and starting fights locally in round here. And it was like, I was a young kid at the time, thinking to myself, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on here?" And and fans coming to Ayresome Park, away fans coming to Ayresome Park, they were in fear of serious damage because we had that little rat run of alleyways to get
yeah,
to the
yeah,
away end. There were like little kind of hooligan kind of ambush areas, weren't there, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the Den at Millwall was famous. The new Den, I went to the New Den for the first time a couple of 2 seasons ago, and everyone's oh, you got to Millwall, you got to Millwall, bloody lovely place. The people were lovely. The experience was great. If I've been got the old Den, taking my lad with me, your first thing is like, is that safe to do? That kind of thing.
yeah.
It's like so the lack of hooligans. Yeah, if somebody wants a fight, they can always find a fight. There's always a knobhead, and we sit near the away fans, and there's always people doing the sort of cutting your neck sort of actions and all that kind. But
Ugh,
the more talk than bloody anything anyway, aren't there, these days? You rarely see pitch battle, hooliganism, organised fighting, even at stations. We travel a lot by train, and stations used to be a place where you'd be. Before you went in, you'd be like looking up and down the platform and seeing who's wearing colours and all that. Now it's like, oh, we've met some Bradford City fans. Oh, we've seen some fans from so and so. You'd have a chat with fans from other clubs rather than it being oh my God, we're in a situation where
yeah,
we're outnumbered 6-1 and you got to stand and fight. So the hooligan element for me being removed from football or certainly massively reduced, it can only be a bonus. And I think that's added to the variety of people who go to games. Where we sit at the Riverside, we're surrounded by families and women and blokes of a certain age and younger people as well. You wouldn't have got that going back historically, because they'd have been in fear of coming
yeah.
into the
I
stadium.
agree. I agree with that. Do you know what? You're right. Actually, thinking about it, I'd not given it a lot of thought before, but when I go back and think now, and I have got a good memory, there wasn't a lot. When I started going with dad, it was heavily lads and dads and lads.
Yeah,
Whereas now you do get a lot more women and girls at football. I mean, I take my daughter. I've been taking her since she was 6,
yeah,
and yeah, it's much more diverse, and people feel much more comfortable to go. I agree with you. I've come face to face with hooliganism and violence at football, and it's not nice, and it's pretty terrifying. I remember being at Stamford Bridge in '88 when we had
oh,
the second playoff game, and for some reason they'd sold a little pocket of tickets in one of the Chelsea stands, and literally in the middle of the stand, their main stand, a little pocket of about 200 Borough fans, and they'd sold tickets in there, and we were in there, God knows why, and we were just getting pelters, getting so much abuse. I remember my brother, who was 10 at the time, being spat on and threatened. I remember having words with this. He was a full grown adult. I remember just saying, "What are you doing? You're spitting on a 10-year-old kid. Is there
yeah,
something wrong with you?" I was absolutely fuming,
yeah,
and there was lots of sensible Chelsea fans saying, "I'm not quite sure why they put you in here. I really don't know why they allocated a pocket of fans to be in here, but of all the games to be in here and the atmosphere anyway." And this was late '80s when hooliganism was still really rife.
yeah,
And in the end, it got so hostile, and we felt so threatened from these mindless idiots that literally had scooped their brains out before they came in and parked their brains outside and didn't treat us like normal human beings. The police came in and had to take us into the away end. And I remember at the end of the game, we were kept in for like 3 or 4 hours and then
yeah,
personally escorted back to our car. It was that bad.
yeah,
So you just don't get that now. And I think the modern game has bred that in terms of because there is still elements of it. You hear it in the news, you see it bits, and it's there. And if fans want to fight, they will, and they'll find a way to do it. But your general match day experience on that day, I agree with you. It's you don't feel as uncomfortable anymore to
no,
walk around with your shirt on and have banter with fans, and it's just accepted. I think most people are sensible enough to know that you're not there to create trouble. You're just there supporting your football team, aren't you?
yeah. On the subject of wearing merch, first of all, the variety of merch is a good thing. I love the availability of merch. It's a lot better than it used to be. We didn't used to have any merch at all, did we? Had
Yeah,
a rosette as we mentioned last week on
yeah,
the pod. I quite like the variety of merch. I'm not sure I like the pricing of the merch, but nonetheless, but also the merch thing. If Rob and I are going to an away game in London from York on the train, we love a bit of fan spotting because on that train down to London, you could see Spurs fans, Charlton fans, you see Newcastle might be playing away, you got QPR fans as you arrive, and we do fan spotting. In the old days, it would have been there's a fan over there from another club. Shit, cover your coloured
yeah, yeah,
cover your
yeah.
colours up. Now you strike up a conversation. We came back from Norwich. Julie and I came back from Norwich, and we were at Peterborough Station, and Bradford City had been playing at Peterborough, and there was and I say a gang. There was like 20 lads on the station, and all in Bradford City colours. And we got off the train from Norwich, and said, "How we gone today? Oh, we won like last minute winner and all that kind of thing." We chatting away, and their train came and said, "Have a good look for the season." And all that. We chatting about our pre-season friendly. It was just nice. It was just nice to
It's
do,
good, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I think we discussed on a previous pod. We both went up to the pre-season game, Middlesbrough v Rangers,
yeah,
and I was on a train from Liverpool up to Glasgow because obviously I live in the northwest, and a lad got a guy got on at Lime Street with me, and he was sat opposite me. And you don't instantly start talking because you don't naturally. Sometimes you don't know if people want to talk or
I do.
you do. I mean, I'm a talker as well, but I always gauge the situation first because I think if I suddenly start talking, they might not want to. And he was quiet to start with. I didn't know anything about him. And then I can't remember what stop it was. At this certain stop, his mate got on, and then his son got on, and his son was wearing a Rangers top.
Yeah,
And and then I instantly knew where they were going.
yeah,
So as soon as I knew where they were going, I was like, "Oh, you're going up to watch the Rangers Middlesbrough," and then we were just talking the
yeah,
whole way up, and it was random that this guy opposite me literally lives where I live in on the Wirral,
yeah,
and he because he said, "Oh, there's a I go to a Rangers supporters club at this Lyceum club which is around the corner from me in Port Sunlight," and for years I've been thinking, why am I seeing Rangers tops? Where's that guy going with his Rangers top on?
yeah,
And I've been thinking that. I'm thinking there must be something somewhere, but what's going on? And now I know because he said I go there, and he said I'll come along to a game and have a watch,
yeah,
which I will do one game. I was going to
yeah.
go to the Celtic Rangers derby, but it was on a Sunday, and I was in the northeast having watched a game. But like you, I'm like you're much more encouraged these days to sit and have a chat and a banter. And they were offering me beers and all sorts, and we were saying, "Oh, what do you think of the new manager?" And when we left, we were all on first name terms, shook hands, best of
Yeah,
luck today, have a good luck for the season. And even when I was after the game, when I'd left you and you got an earlier train than me, I was walking around Glasgow, got something to eat, had my top on, and I had Celtic fans come to me a bit about it saying, "Oh, did you beat Rangers today?" And
yeah,
sadly it was a draw, and they were cussing about that obviously because they don't like Rangers. But then they were saying, "Oh, love Tony Mowbray. He was great for us." And
yeah.
you got that connection there, but there was no hostility at all. There was no
No,
anger, no venom. And I talked to some pretty hard people like running, walking around, and it was just banter. It was just really good.
that very same day, Middlesbrough were playing Rangers in Glasgow, and we were kicking off at 2 o'clock. And Sunderland were playing Hearts
Okay, Hearts, weren't
In
they? Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. In Edinburgh
Yeah,
at 3 o'clock,
yeah,
which meant that when our game had finished, most of the Borough fans would make their way back to Edinburgh Waverley as the Sunderland fans were leaving Hearts. They had about 3,000, we had 8,000, but a lot of people travelling by train on the same
yeah.
line. There was a few knobheads at Waverley Station from both sides trying to, one guy I saw, he pulled his bloody face mask up and his hoodie on and think yourself, you're just an absolute knob, just looking for trouble. I hope so. I was hoping someone would give him a punch in the face,
Knock
to
it
be
out.
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I got on a carriage. Rob was away at the time, so I was with Julie, Dawn, and Dawn's young son, who's only 18. And I said to Julie, right, she said, "Oh, let's go to Marks and Spencer's because she's posh and get sandwich." I said, "No, let's just get on the train." I said, "I don't want to go anywhere near where the concourse is, where there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's get on the train." We had reserved seats. Gets on the train. We had a table for four, surrounded by Sunderland fans. Right now, your first reaction is, I hope these are not knobhead Sunderland fans. They were lovely. They were great. We had a chat. They got beat.
Yeah,
They got beat 2 or 3-0 at
yeah,
Hearts.
they did. Yeah.
We'd had a 2-all draw at Rangers. They just got promoted last season. We talked about the aspirations for the Premier League. They were hoping that we got promoted this season to join them if they stayed up.
Yeah.
And it was, you know what? And then ironically, we pulled in at Durham Station. We were kept waiting for 20 minutes at Durham Station while Borough fans and Sunderland fans decided to have a fight on the platform, like for knobheads, you know what I mean? But it's
Really?
very, very,
Very
very
rare.
rare now.
Yeah.
So the hooliganism's gone. Last thing I want to finish on, just consider we've talked a lot in previous things about refereeing standards and VAR. One piece of thing that I like about the modern game, I love goal line technology. I absolutely love it because it's absolutely essential and it works. And, you know, from a technology point of view, you can shove VAR as far as some won't shine. You can get your referees to improve the decision making and the standards and all that kind of thing. But goal line technology works and long may it continue. And that's my one take on technology, improving the game rather than damaging the game. And I'd like my contribution to this bloody hell, this podcast, what am I doing? Podcast to finish with goal line technology being a great evolution for the modern game.
I agree with that, and I think really because it's simplistic. There's nothing else to it apart from it literally measures is it over the line or not, and then a
Yeah,
little bleep goes off on the referee's watch, and that's it.
yeah,
It's clear cut. It's simple. There's no debate. It's brilliant. I'm just glad it came in. I think I mentioned before. I'm glad it came in after 1966 because you could have had a little bleep that came right off and said, "Sorry, that's not a goal."
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, so I agree with that because we've both seen some travesties of where you can clearly see some goals, and you know, it's not happened.
yeah,
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there was about 3 or 4 seasons ago, there was a Man City game where was it literally a fraction of the ball? I think it was just was it just over the line or not on the line? And I think it was just over the line. And Aguero got awarded the goal and City won. And I think it meant they won the title over Liverpool. And
yeah.
I think it was literally just over. And I think without that goal line technology, I think it would have been ruled out. They would have said,
Yeah.
"Oh, it didn't cross the line." So it's things like that. I think that are the key differences.
But here's the thing with goal line technology: you can't argue with it. It's
You
black and white.
can't. That's it either is or it isn't, and you can see it because they show you afterwards, and you can see where it's landed. So it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, you just can't. That's a good shout, that mate. Yeah, very good.
The list is long. I'm conscious of time. One for you to finish with that you mentioned just before we came on air. AstroTurf. What's your view on AstroTurf, mate?
Well, again, going back in time, younger fans might not even remember this at all, but QPR had an Astro pitch between 81 and 88, and then Luton Town had one between, I think it was 85 and 91, and they were a thing of hideousness, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen. They were awful, and I think it was designed. I think these clubs put them in because they were thinking, well, it's great because we don't have to maintain these god awful pitches. Because again, at the time there was no pitch technology, muddy pitches. They thought we got a brilliant all weather, all round pitch. I remember players just couldn't stand playing on it. You couldn't really do sliding tackles. You get burnt legs and friction burns. The bounce of the ball was ridiculous. It was like playing it on a five-a-side pitch at your local five-a-side place.
but it wasn't even that good because it looked like when you go to greengrocers and they've got the green stuff where they put the
Yeah,
bananas and the
yeah.
oranges and stuff. It was that low level quality at that point, wasn't it? It wasn't
Oh, it
4G.
wasn't great stuff. It wasn't 4G. It wasn't that stuff that you get. When the non-league game I went to a few weeks ago for the pod, they had a 4G pitch, and again. So that's an artificial pitch. It has all those black pellets in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's a really good playing surface. That was none of that.
No,
It was almost like it was the way I can picture it. It's almost like rolling out a Sabutio mat and playing
yeah,
on a Sabutio mat. If people know what's well, there's a thing of the past as well. Sabutio, we should have put that in last week. Youngers will be thinking, "What's Sabutio? What the hell is he talking about?" But a
look it
Sabutio
up.
was like and it's like rolling out an Astromat, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
playing on it, it was that bad.
yeah. So on the modern game, we like the fact that they don't exist
They
anymore.
don't
You
exist
can't.
because it did
Yeah,
give them they both clubs it was always touted that it gave both clubs an advantage because they were used to playing on it in a way teams weren't.
Yeah,
I'd say that the results would tell you that it didn't give them an advantage because it was QPR and Luton. But
it was.
yeah,
Okay, well, listen, we did say at the start that this was an episode that we might struggle to say what do we love about modern football, but I think it's fair to say that we've got quite a list of things that we like about modern football. We didn't even finish with all of them, so we might do another episode on this further down the line. I think it has been a counterbalance to us reminiscing, but we've had a bit of reminiscing in it as well, Dom, because you can't help
yeah,
ourselves. We can't help ourselves, can we? I don't
we
think, mate,
can't
when it
help it,
comes to
mate.
that.
No,
So,
no.
okay, no worries. Well, thanks for your support as ever. Episode 21 next time, because it will go out in the third international break of the season. Traditionally, what we've done at every international break is we've done some observations on the season to date. So Dom and I are making notes as we watch football and
We are.
observe football and see things that are happening in the press and whatever. So for the third international break of the season, more observation on the season to date on episode 21. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. We'd love your comments. We'd love you to get engaged with the content, whichever platform you're on. The Half and Half Scarf with Football Podcast with Nick and Dom. You'll find us everywhere and anywhere. We're growing the platform and growing the numbers, and we appreciate your support. So, Dom, thanks as ever, mate, and we'll see you on episode 21.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Loving it. These been a couple of great episodes the last couple of weeks. Really enjoyed them, and yeah, looking forward to the observations. There's lots to talk about and get our teeth into. And thanks everyone for the support. I'll see you next time. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
See you soon.